A movie that begs the question, Bagley butt or butt double? Jamie?
Uh-huh.
Pat?
Yeah.
Let's go watch She-Devil. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Good Times, Great Movies, your go-to podcast for 80s movies.
You're coming here.
Where else would you go, really? I assume there's no other 80s movies podcast that exists, so this is the only place to go. So I am one of your two hosts. My name is Doug McCambridge, and with me from Nashville, Tennessee, Jamie Lorello.
Hi, y'all.
Jamie, how are you?
I'm well.
You and I did some odd research while we were waiting for our guests to get online. And our research is, you tried to convince me that in this movie we see Ed Begley Jr.'s bare ass, and I did not believe you. So to solve this dispute, we are joined by our first repeat guest, Pat Hartz.
Yes, thank you.
I'm giving you a
Thanks
round.
for coming.
Yeah.
Now, truth be told, we've only had a total of 2 guests so far, but you are our first repeat guest.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it was important for you to come on here because for our Easter movie, we chose She-Devil, and I know it's something that you were very excited to talk about.
Yes. She-Devil is a cult classic, and tons of gay men love it. Even though it was a flop when it first came out, of course.
So I'm the only one who has never seen this movie before I watched it. And I was so amazed I had never seen this. I'm like, how did I not just stumble upon this on HBO in the afternoon when I was 11? Like, it seems like something I definitely should have seen
You weren't
before.
an unhappy housewife, and you weren't a gay man, and you weren't I loved it because you got...
But I could have been those things.
You could.
That's what I'm saying. This movie could have made me those things.
True. Would have shaped your future, really. She-Devil's a future shaper, if you will.
Yeah, and Paul, to me, it's one of those movies that, like, you're at the video store. Remember when you would go to the video store with your parents?
Oh, yes.
And you're looking around, you're like, that looks, whatever. Like, this is one of those movies that you're like, whatever. And then you watch it, and it's, like, campy fun. So much fun.
Yes.
And lots of cameos in it, too.
True.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, which we'll get to, of course, right?
Absolute.
And Jamie, I don't know if you noticed this, but I think this is our first repeat director on this podcast.
I didn't.
Did you know who the director is and what she's directed before?
No, aren't I awful? No.
A movie that I loved and a movie you rewatched and really hated because you were not into Desperately Seeking Susan the way I was.
Yes.
Such a great film, right?
Yes.
This was her follow-up, right?
I think that this is a follow-up, but this was a big deal because she had Meryl Streep in it, but that's because they had the same agent.
Can we just say, before we get started and before we start to talk about our feelings on this movie, which we will do at the end anyway, can we just say that Meryl Streep is amazing?
Brilliant.
And
Brilliant.
it doesn't matter what she does.
She is amazing. I mean, and like...
She's incredible.
Yeah.
And this is like such a weird time in her career because after this, I looked and it was Postcards from the Edge was after this, but then was Defending Your Life, and then Death Becomes Her. So it was like this weird comedy, like an Academy Award-winning actress in her 40s, like, I don't know. Other like 4 back-to-back comedic roles.
Well, she had been criticized because she had never done comedy before. So then She-Devil was her first comedy. But I think that She-Devil was excellent. And then the follow-up to it, like when I think Death Becomes Her is the biggest follow-up to it. Because that movie is just amazeballs. Love that movie.
Yes.
When you do a 90s podcast, we have to do that one.
Yes. I totally agree.
I mean, I really love Defending Your Life, but it's more of an Albert Brooks vehicle than it is. Like, she's there, but she doesn't get much funny stuff to do in that movie.
All right, so here we go, guys. Are we ready? Let's take the
I'm so
adventure.
ready.
Let's go for it.
Yes.
Just a bunch of ladies getting their makeup on at the beauty counter. We're at the mall because Ruth, our main character, Roseanne, is getting ready for a big night out with her fancy night out, if you will, with her husband.
And we know it's the late 80s because more than one scene in this movie takes place at the mall.
Yes.
True. And this is when we are first introduced to Roseanne and her mole.
Her epic mole.
It is such
Now,
a...
I know I'm jumping ahead, and Jamie, again, I probably just looked away for a second when Ed Begley Jr. dropped the towel. But I feel like I must have also looked away because suddenly that mole was gone. Was there...
How did you... Wait a minute.
she...
There was a lot of focus on that mole in the whole movie until she does remove it. How did you not...
What?
How
When
could
did
you
she?
say
Oh
that?
my god! I feel like I didn't do my job with this movie. I feel like maybe I was half paying attention.
Mole
I don't
is
know what
like
happened.
her right-hand man for like a good
Half the
two-thirds
movie.
of the movie.
Yeah. Or
I
2/3.
understand that she had a mole, but I felt like suddenly I looked and I was like, "What the hell?"
Well, then
happened
she
with
has
the
a
mole? Like,
Band-Aid
where
on the
did it
mole
go?
because she's obviously doing some recovery work after the mole
All right.
removal.
But there's no plot line
okay.
that tells us, hey, she's getting rid of that mole.
No. Well, she's making herself better. She's moving on up like a Jefferson. So that's when the mole kind of leaves us. But in the beginning, the mole is there in full effect. And she is kind of a mopey. Even when she gets her hair done, it's like they perm it out to make it look worse than it did beforehand. So she's getting all ready to kind of have this fancy night out. I like the scene where she squeezes herself into the gold dress. That's our main character that we're meeting. Ruth is her name, correct? I know
Ruth
she changes
Hatchet,
it later on.
Every performance is heightened insanely, like to
Like
an
Mommy Dearest
insane
level.
It's so fun, and it's very like empowering as a woman. I love it.
Oh, sure.
When we meet Miss Mary Fisher, who is delightfully, as we've said many times before, played by Miss Meryl Streep. She is, like you said, she's just that lavish Long Island princess. She's a romance novelist, correct? That's what she does.
Yes.
And she, of course, her books are being read by housewives like Ruth.
Yes.
Ruth, P.S., is married to Ed Begley Jr., who strikes me as kind of a weird, because later on he's quite the womanizer, like quite the man, and I don't see him at all. Like,
they are a bizarre couple.
Yeah.
Because later on, I was like, wow, Meryl Streep and Ed Begley Jr. make a really good couple. Like, they look really great together. He and Roseanne, well, we find out why later on. We found out that they
we get
had
the
to
two.
get
Yeah,
married
because
was
she got
pregnant.
knocked up. That's right.
It's a great
right.
scene
We
in the
do
movie
find that
when
out
his
at the
parents
park.
Yeah, and he was just coming off of St. Elsewhere fame, so it was either him or Howie Mandel that was going to get that role.
Oh my gosh! Oh, I think Ed did it well.
I would love to see a Howie Mandel. That could almost be like a Rhea Perlman, Danny DeVito type thing. If those two were together, that would work out.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Good call.
One day.
Now, so she's a housewife. We have a romance novelist, and he's an accountant, right?
He's an accountant in Manhattan, and that's why I love Susan Seidelman's movies, because she does a lot of nods to Manhattan. And they live on Long Island, I'm guessing.
Right.
On the way to Mary
very
Fisher's
suburban.
house.
Yes, 75 miles to Mary Fisher's house, I think.
That's right.
So we go to this party, this event, and I love when we see Ruth at the party for the first time, and she's dressed as nice as Ruth can dress, but like I said, I feel like her hair looks worse than it did before she got it styled, and it's sort of the theme of her wardrobe is very flowery clothing that she wears.
Yeah, it looks like her dress looks like a tablecloth my grandmother would put outside.
Yes.
On like a summer day.
Oh, it's so like French provincial, just like their house, but anyway.
Yes, yeah. Oh, the wallpaper and everything in their house is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
the chevron wallpaper was amazing. Like, it's like, how could people live in that and not go insane every morning when you woke up?
It looked like an Afghan.
Well, they were a little insane. That family was insane. Did you not see the boy when they took him to the market, to the grocery store, and he's stabbing all the
poked holes in the
gallons
milk
of milk?
cartons? Yeah.
Yeah, like for what reason?
I hate those kids so much.
Those kids were horrible, right? They didn't even have any kind of backstory. Like I saw them as the kids from Polyester, the John Waters film. I saw a lot of similarities with that. But anyway.
This movie, Pat, you're right. This movie would have made so much more sense as a John Waters film. Because every now and then stuff was thrown in, and I went, whoa, wait. That does not belong in this movie. Like when the butler is sexy dancing with a 12-year-old girl.
Like 11.
I was like,
she's about
this
11.
Seems highly inappropriate.
That was, and we'll get to that scene then because I've got some comments on that.
Okay,
I love it. I love it. All right, so let's move it along. So we're at the party.
we're jumping.
We're at this event, which is a party, and I do love
the Guggenheim, by the way.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Someone's paying extra attention at the Guggenheim. Now, she feels very out of place, and I can kind of relate to that. She does do a nice job of making, like, when you're at a party that you just don't fit in, you feel like the girl with the ugly flower dress and the giant mole. You just feel that way. And there
mole.
she is. Yes, exactly.
Does this happen?
And
does
there
this happen to you a lot,
I
Jamie?
mean, I'm not going to lie.
Do we need to talk about this for a while?
Do
we need to just take a 10-minute break?
Just watching the movie helped me kind of flesh out my feelings about about social events. But that's okay.
Right.
Thank you for indulging me. But I love it. So now she's feeling inadequate, and for some reason she steps backwards and wipes her foot on Mary Fisher's dress. It's a weird scene how she doesn't just casually bump into her. She's like wiping her foot on the back of her dress, right?
Really?
So that's how yes. It's like a weird...
Yeah, it's almost like they said, don't just step on her dress because audiences aren't going to get it. Like, step on her dress and just rub your foot, just smear it down, then everyone will know you stepped on her dress. Like, it was really strange.
Yes.
I did pick up on that.
I thought she spilled her wine.
She does then, but she starts out by
That's when Mary
stretching-
tries to walk away, but she's caught on her dress.
Oh,
Yes, 'cause
And
she's
that's
like,
I
when
didn't notice
yeah.
that.
she's like stretching her foot out, like she takes her shoe off, but it's on Mary's dress. And then she bumps into Mary, and Mary spills her wine, and that's how they meet. And she's freaking out because this is this romance novelist. But now, dun 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 dun, strangers in the night.
Yes, and they do play that in the background.
Yeah.
Very good.
Ed Begley, Bob. What's his name in the
Bob.
movie? Bob. Right?
Bob,
Yeah.
yes, Bob.
Bob and Mary's meet eyes, and love is in the air, right?
Yeah, they have their little meet cute.
Yes.
Yep.
So they kind of flirt heavily all night, and again, I love Meryl Streep is so breathy.
Breathy,
So, in this movie, it's so great.
She's just
Just everything.
so naive, like the damsel in distress, like, save me, my accountant's not helping
I
me.
love it. He goes, I think it's when he's in her house or something, and he goes, this could be a write-off. And he's like, doesn't your accountant do that for you? And she was like, I don't know. Should he?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know.
that was good.
They decide to give her a ride home, but first they drop. I
Oh,
love
it's
this
such
scene.
a great shot. It's such a great shot when it shows Bob and Meryl Streep, Mary, in the front seat of the car, and the camera pans around to reveal that Roseanne's sitting in the back. I love that.
He's like, oh, it's only 75 miles to the
Only
Hamptons.
35 miles to Hamptons, where we have to drop Mary off. But first, we're going to drop you off, Ruth, and you can walk up the block.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Not in
We're
front
just
of
going
the
to drop her
house.
off at the end of the street. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, then breathy Meryl and Bob drive off to the Hamptons, and whoa, what a house, right? I mean, she's a romance novelist. She's a millionaire. She's got a gorgeous house. She tells him, "You should see my electric bill." I can't really do that. I sound like Dolly Parton, but that's
No, you can't. I was wondering how you were going to
By
do
the
that
way,
accent.
that scene between Ruth and Mary Fisher, it's the only
Yeah.
scene that Roseanne and Meryl share in the whole film.
when she steps on her, really?
That's the only scene, and then the rest of it is just them doing their own thing.
I guess
No, you're right, because even when they're quote-unquote interacting, like when Meryl Streep's even in the tub and she drops the kid off, they're not on camera
Oh
together.
yeah.
And even at the very end when she has her sign the book, they're not on camera together. That could have been shot different days, of course. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Huh.
it's the only time
Yeah.
they're together, and I think that that's ironic because Ruth is so starstruck by her when really it's the one she
Yeah.
ends up loathing. But I don't want to give
Yeah.
any more away.
Besides seeing the beautiful house she lives in, this is when we're also introduced to Garcia, right? Her
I love
butler.
Garcia. I wanted to know so much more about Garcia. I was
Everybody
like,
wants to have a Garcia in their house. He answers the
Yes.
door with amazing man cleavage and a robe and a puppy, right? Or a little Shih Tzu dog.
Yeah. It's a
No,
poodle
it's like
that
a
she has,
poodle, right?
Oh, yeah, it's a poodle.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know. Little dogs all
Okay,
meld together.
but Jamie, I want to ask you: did you watch soaps when you were a teen?
No.
It's A. Martinez plays
Oh.
Garcia, and he was on I think he was on every soap. He was on Bold and the Beautiful, and
Yeah,
General
yeah.
Hospital. I knew him from Hollywood Squares. He was always on Hollywood Squares.
Yes.
And I knew he was a soap star. I just didn't know what. And then I saw him in this movie, and I'm like, "Hey, it's A. Martinez from Hollywood Squares." He looks good, though, huh?
You did, yeah. I have to say, like I said, I think everybody should have an A. Martinez rolling around their pad.
Yes,
Right?
hunky butler. Yep.
Yep. That is also just her sex slave. Like, we get to know that, too.
Oh,
But-
that there's hanky-panky between the two of
Oh,
them,
the
right?
hanky-panky.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, no, there's hanky-panky. going
Hanky-panky.
on
Well,
there.
I don't like when he's holding the dog and then he drops the dog. I don't like that.
You're like, easy. Take it easy.
Wait, you're coming out against animal abuse on our podcast? Is that the
Yeah.
bold statement here?
He drops the dog and
all
the
right.
dog winces. And I saw that
Right,
and I'm
yes.
like, Garcia,
Yeah.
what are you
Take
doing?
it easy now, Garcia.
Yes.
Show the love.
So are we to believe, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but are we to believe that her romance novels in the past are based on her
Escapades?
relationship with Garcia?
No, I think it's very...
inspired by, yeah.
Okay.
Because
all
she
right.
was a slut according to
only-
her mom, but we'll get
Yes,
to
she was a teenage
I
tramp.
do love them.
that. Teenage tramp.
When her mom says she's a slut.
Yeah, but I think her and Garcia definitely had something going on. So when Bob came over and the two of them are drinking Cavassier together,
Yes, yes.
I was like, is that
That's great.
Cavassier they're drinking? Because he says it's a
Yeah.
write-off.
Yes, and they have a rendezvous of sorts, right?
Yes.
They're together, and poor Ruth is eating donuts and reading her
I
romance
love
novel
that.
in bed, reading about love nectar being spent and the
But
what's really happening. Go ahead.
Paul, were you going to say the donuts were right next to the bed? There was a dozen donuts
was-
next to the bed.
It's amazing.
Dangerously close.
Because I didn't even really notice it. I saw that she was reading the book and everything like that, and then suddenly she just picks up a donut and eats it. And it was like 3 a.m.
3
I'm like,
a.m.
this
He's
is
waiting.
so
waiting for him
over
to
the
come home.
top.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And she knows that the next morning she's kind of going over the monologue in her head that he ends up saying to her kid.
Right.
She's like, well, he probably blew a tire. And, he had some issues getting home. And he comes in the door and he's like, I blew a tire. And this is when we're introduced to their home. And you're right, Pat, the hideous wallpaper
Yes.
that's all around them. And the two kids that are kind of almost pointless except to know that they have a family that
Yeah.
they're tearing apart, although was the daughter ever in anything? I don't think I've ever seen that son in anything else.
I looked them
I
up
don't
just in
know.
case. The daughter I don't recognize from anything, but I saw
Okay.
on IMDb that the son was an extra in Edward Scissorhands. So
No
hey,
joke.
he
All
got a lot
right.
of work, and he was in
He
4th
did.
and 4th of
He got a
July.
P.S.
got a lot.
He's a working actor.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
it.
So
Love it.
No, nothing significant.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, now we have it. It's happened, right? The egg. It's been done. The affair has been started. Bob and Mary are sort of a thing.
I was so confused by this part because there were cutscenes of Bob and Mary running on the beach, and I'm like, is this
Yeah.
just in Roseanne's head, or is this actually happening?
No, well, he really disappears, I guess, from their life.
Right.
Yeah,
Right? He just
And just the fact that she thinks that he's having an affair. Is he a serial cheater? Like,
no, I think this
are
is the
we-
first time because of
Really?
Hmm.
Did you notice his office is entirely comprised of women? Like,
Yeah.
there are no men working. And when that receptionist comes in later, like, all the other women look at each other like, we know what's
Yeah.
about to happen.
Yeah, but
Because
for
it happened to
Abby-
us, too.
Yeah, but this is probably the first time that Ruth notices it because she says, Mary Fisher,
Okay.
I hope your pink palace crumbles into the sea.
Oh yeah, I do like the narrative. There's a bit of narrative that happens throughout the film,
Yes.
right? Where
Roseanne.
her voiceovers are
yes.
great. Yes,
where Roseanne's sort of telling the story of what's unraveling here, being her marriage and soon her husband's life at her hands, which is amazing. There is.
I Googled it. I still didn't see it. The internet still, if you type in Ed Begley's butt.
Well, the internet
you
doesn't want
can't
you to
find
know.
it.
It's an experience you should have by watching She-Devil with everything you have within you. And you.
Listen, the internet wants you to know. I assume Mr. Skin would be able to tell me if there's
Well,
any
I don't
Ed
think
Begley
it's really
nudity.
Ed's butt. To be honest, it was a little too cheeky and a
Oh, you
little
don't
too
think so?
firm.
Oh,
I
really?
think
Okay.
myself. I don't
All right.
know.
You think there was a stunt butt?
I feel like perhaps it was, yeah, a butt
Really?
extra, if you will. Yeah.
What about the
Yeah.
long shots though, when you see him barely carrying the towel? Well,
Wait, how many? Oh, okay. I was going to say.
Well, those are different, see, but when the full butt is exposed, that butt's too firm, that hair's too blonde. I don't think that's Ed B.
all
You
right.
don't
Well,
think so? I mean, he's a
I
lean
analyzed people.
guy.
You didn't
I
even
mean,
see
he's-
it, DP.
the other
I
thing
know.
is because when they're Mary's romancing him, right, and they're kissing each
Yeah.
other in the middle of 57th Street and
Yes.
on the street, but Mary gives him a ring that says
Oh, that's right.
R.P. Robert Patchett,
Robert.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, because that comes into play later. I just wanted to
Yes,
bring that
that's
up. Right?
that's
Okay.
right. That's an important piece as their romance. Yeah.
Is this when he comes home from work and goes directly to the
To the
shower?
shower.
Yes.
One of the times, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so ladies, this is a tip-off. If your man comes home from work and has to take a shower, affair.
Yeah.
No question about it. I mean, that's what's happening.
I worked on a cheating show before, and that's a telltale sign.
The Insta shower.
Yeah, I
He's
understand.
not just
If he's
clean,
like if he's like a bricklayer or something, I kind of get it. But if he's an accountant and has to take a shower after work,
Yeah.
that's
Not-
probably
not
what's
good.
happening.
Well, and when he comes back, she's a hot mess, Roseanne, or sorry, Ruth, because she's definitely sensing that there's something fishy going on. And the in-laws are coming over for dinner, right?
Yes.
Bob's parents are coming over for dinner.
Wacky in-laws.
Yes, and she's a mess. She's weighed herself. She's 201 pounds.
I know, 200. Did she look 200 to you?
No, she actually.
No.
I have to tell
No.
you, I mean, I enjoy Roseanne. Now, this was an earlier in her career Roseanne, so not as divalicious as she has now become.
This was
but-
Yeah.
this was not a Roseanne Arnold. This was not just Roseanne. This was a Roseanne Barr.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly,
Yes,
Paul. Very
yes.
good point. There's a big
Yes,
difference.
yes. She's just doing her dang best tonight to keep it together while the in-laws are there. She's pretty clumsy because she's kind of a hot mess, and she falls down. Now, are we supposed to believe that because she takes a slow motion fall here when she's flabbergasted and trying to get dinner ready, and it happens in such a way that is that when the devil gets in her? When she gets
don't
inspired?
know what was happening here, because then he catches it and nothing spills, and I'm like, is this like a weird superhero thing? I didn't know what was going on at this point in the movie, because every scene in this movie, again, not having seen it, I could not wait to see what happened next, because I
That's
didn't know
great.
what I was
Yeah,
about
yeah.
to see happen, because he is insane about his parents coming to visit.
And
He's like, cheese and crackers. Don't you embarrass me in front of my parents. And I'm like, what is going on? You're like a dude in your mid-40s. Relax.
Yeah.
And her parents seem to like her. His parents seem to like her just fine. The mom is very. Don't
Right.
talk like that to her. What are you
The
gonna
mom's
do
nice,
that
but
for?
the dad is not.
Oh yeah, that's true. The dad is not. The dad's like, you knocked her up, or you got her pregnant, or whatever.
Got her
That's
pregnant,
when it's
Bobby.
Yeah, I love when. So the night becomes sort of disaster. There's a huge fight at the dinner table. Doesn't he at one point go to take his belt off to beat his kids? What
Yes.
do his kids do? Where he's
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I saw that and I'm like, did he just take his fucking belt off? Like he was going to beat them?
Well, he's so frazzled. He really just wants to be out there boning Mary, right? But now he
Right,
has to be
right.
home having dinner with his family and his in-laws. So he's stressed. He goes to take the belt on his kids. she presents dinner, and inside the dinner is, we forgot to mention, the weird son has a pet rat. Is it a rat? Or it's a gerbil? Okay.
Gerbil.
I think everybody calls it a rat because I was like, oh, there's a rat in their food because they keep referring to it as a rat, but who keeps a rat as a pet?
Yeah, she serves us.
Was it a gerbil? What did you guys think? Was it a gerbil?
Oh, that thing looked like a rat. I mean, that was big. That thing was big and gross and had like a big thick tail. I thought it was a rat.
Oh, okay.
It was cooked inside a casserole. P.S. By mistake.
So she said, "I'll get a strainer." That was great.
I love when it splats on the little girl's face, and she has the bet. Gross. When a piece of it just splats on her face. Yeah, some of the. And this is. Now we're reaching a breaking point. This is when the mole. See, Doug, how did you miss, DP, the feature of the mole? Like when she's like at her most like.
It's not. No, I knew she had a mole.
Right.
Then suddenly I turned around and she didn't have a mole.
Well,
the transition was the part that I was lost on.
Okay. Oh, like when it went down.
That's what it was. I saw the mole. Don't worry. It was amazing.
So he's packing his bags because now really this is the straw that broke his back. He just wanted to be kind of over this marriage, and he is, right? Do you remember what he yells at her? Doesn't he yell some ridiculous things at her as he's leaving? Was there anything that stuck out to you guys? I didn't write anything down, but I didn't know.
I just wrote down great yelling acting by Ed Begley Jr. That's all I wrote down.
He calls her. What he does is and I notice this because I've seen this movie so many goddamn times. He says, I have, a list of assets that matter in my life.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm.
He lists the assets that later on she makes a list of and tries to hit. But then he says, "You're a she-devil." And I'm like, they said it.
The titular line. There we have it. But so she's got now, like you said, from this fight, Pat, now she has this list which she pens down with this like fancy fountain pen. I remember this distinctly from being a kid and remembering how she was writing with this fancy fountain pen on this things to remember paper. These Bob's assets, which he listed in the fight. Home, family, career, freedom. Those are his assets.
Yes.
And these are important pieces to the rest of the film. Now, she freaks out in all her floral print, and she decides to essentially burn down the house. And I love the way she
that was the best, right?
Yes.
It was so good. Now, really quick, though, I just want to say she's writing with a rose pen on rose stationery.
Oh, yes.
Because that's a continuing theme.
Mm-hmm.
But, Jamie, Paul, weren't you so excited? First of all, I've seen this before, and I love the scene where she... fucks up the house. What do you think of that, Paul? Because you've never seen it before.
It was amazing because some things made total sense and I loved it. And just the insanity behind some of the decisions. Like, just to take all these electrical appliances and put them in the washing machine is great. And it makes no sense whatsoever. And to just turn on the mixer and shove a knife in there as though that's going to do anything.
Definitely.
But I also love how one of the last things she does... for, again, no reason, is just knock down the smoke detector.
Yes, with a hammer.
Yes.
She didn't want the fire department coming. Now, the thing is, I just have to say, I made a list of the things she did because I love them so much.
Excellent.
Do you mind if I go through them very quickly?
Absolutely.
No, go, please.
So she goes nuts. She turns on a heavy metal music video on the TV. For ambiance, of course.
Yeah.
And then she throws a bunch of things in the washer. She puts an iron in there. She puts the hanging light in there. She puts a blow dryer on high under the pillow, which I've always wanted to do. Yeah, she puts the knife in the mixer. She smokes a ton of cigarettes and then blows up the pilot light. She plugs in extension cords. She locks the window. She puts aerosol cans in a microwave. That's my favorite.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love the aerosol. Mind you, the mole is helping the whole time.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Yeah, and then she takes Mary Fisher's accounting file before the house blows down.
I love it because when the fire happens to afterwards, which we'll talk about the effects of that in 1 second, there's people like camping out. Like they've been watching her do this.
The whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
They're loving it because they're just
they have like lawn chairs and they're like, wah!
They've got beers, like little kids are playing. Yep. Video cameras. Yep.
Now the effects the effects when she blows up.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I mean, we see this beautiful, like pre, disaster, and when disaster strikes, it couldn't be any more fake and cheesy. That
green screen.
It's just Roseanne.
It's amazing green screen work, and her expression on her face is wonderful, and the fact that she kind of stops and turns around to look at it, but then keeps going, but doesn't seem to be making any headway as far as distance. Like, it's so bad, it's amazing.
Yes, and of course the best part is, to me, I always used to quote this when the kids come home. They're like, "What about our clothes? Gone. What about our sleeps? Gone. What about our gone? Everything's gone." So she can cross home off the asset list.
Yes, that's the first thing to be gone. And then she's very efficiently, I love this, because she's just turned, she is the she-devil now. So she's turned a cheek from loving mother to, she brings the kids over to Mary Fisher's place and drops them off, basically.
With the dog named Fuzzy.
Yes, with their weird mutt dog named Fuzzy. Yes, Fuzzy, that's right. So she gives... and now they're together in their, like, is it like a pool, jacuzzi, bed place?
Like a harem.
Yes.
I love it when Meryl Streep, the kids are staring at her, and she kind of swims away.
Yes.
So many bubbles. Like, it just, like, envelops her entire head as she swims away.
Yes, and Garcia was more than welcome to let them in, because he's like, you're going to fuck with me, Mary Fisher?
Well, I feel like they were in Garcia's bedroom. I feel like that harem room is, like, where Garcia sleeps.
Because he's always in the pool? Is that why?
Yes.
That's a good point.
So she drops the kids off and she's like, here you go. Like, you get them all. And he chases after her, like, maybe for the weekend, but you have to take them back. And he drops towel and we just see full on tush. And I'm so sad that you missed it. And I'm sorry that the internet doesn't have it, but you'll just have to rewatch that part of the movie, DP. I mean...
I'll be watching it tonight.
You know you will. And again on Friday when the podcast comes out.
Yes, of course. Everyone will be Googling it. Ed Begley, his green car is not going to be the only thing they're Googling.
So the kids are gone. She takes a taxi. New life is abound. Now this is kind of when does she become Rose? This is when she makes the transformation,
Rose.
right? From Ruth to Rose.
Yes.
And her next mission is to go to the Golden Twilight.
Yes.
Correct?
It is. Did we meet Mary's mother before this? Right. There was a quick scene where she visited her, right?
No, well, it was like footage from an interview.
It was
place.
With Robin Leach, right? Okay, yes.
So we know that her mother is at a home, and the home happens to be Golden Twilight, where they do not tolerate incontinence. Not at all.
Oh my God. This woman's reaction and the way she screams, incontinence,
crazy,
is beyond me. Like, isn't this her job?
Yeah.
I know. Like, isn't that, I mean, that's part of what I'm looking forward to of getting older, is I can piss myself and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, but not.
This head of nursing or whatever, this woman is insane.
Yes, and she sedates them, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, she keeps all the elderly people sedated. Mm-hmm.
Ruth goes in for a job as Vesta Rose, right?
Yes, Vesta is the first,
Yeah, we meet Hooper, who... You recognize her, right?
Jamie and I were not arguing, but we were talking about this before you came on. Mm-hmm. And the only thing Jamie mentioned was like, I don't know, she's in like one of those stupid CSI shows now.
But she's
been in everything, and I could not place her.
Kindergarten Cop.
Ah!
Oh, you're exactly right. Yeah.
Yes.
And the Richard Grieco film, If Looks Could Kill.
You just said Richard Grieco.
Okay, I would not know her from that.
Well, it's a bad movie, but it's Richard Grieco. That's why I watched it.
Sorry. Whenever I think of Richard Grieco, I think of the Mount Airy Lodge commercials because he was in them. Did you know that?
Wait, what?
Mount Airy Lodge.
No.
Oh, he was?
Oh, yes. Yes, and he put a robe. Yes, okay, but we must move on because that has nothing to do with this.
All right. You took your mind out of Ben Begley.
I did, but that's just because you said Richard Grieger. Yeah. But I'm back in the game. It's okay, I'm back in the game.
Okay.
I'm stealing sedatives.
Oh, Jamie, this is another thing we were talking about earlier. This is where Nicolette, the daughter, this is when they're sitting outside at Mary's place. And this is when she's listening to the Fat Boys and Chubby Checker song.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that, Pat, when the Fat Boys and Chubby Checker teamed up for a few songs in the very late 80s. Yes. But that was one of the songs. It's bad that I would know that is the song that was playing. Like, that's what I was kind of embarrassed about. I was like, I remember that song.
That is so awesome that you recognize that. I mean, well, there's a lot of songs I recognize too, by the way, in this, but
there's
we'll get
a lot.
to them.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We'll get to them. So then, what were you saying, Jamie? So this is when she replaces the sedatives with Maxi Life to pep up the old people.
Maxi Life. Yeah, and they do get pepped up. They're playing soccer.
They're listening to I Will Survive.
I was just going to say a bad cover of I Will Survive is being played. But now this is when her and Ruth form a bond, and I love this. Ruth looks at her, and she was like, what did she say? I've been miserable, and so have you. Women like us should stick together. And I love that because it's, it's
a good message.
Yes. And Hooper kind of gets it, and she's like, yeah, right on. I love the bonding they have later over pastries, but that happens later.
For those rainbow cookies.
Yes. Oh, my God. Amazing.
What are those called?
I love... Well, my mom calls them Venetians, but they're not called that either. They have a name, but everyone calls them rainbow cookies.
Oh, okay. I figured you, being Italian, should know that.
Yes. I think they have another name besides my mom calls them the Venetians, but I think she just calls them that because it sounds saucy. Now, through all of this, we didn't really... Right, we kind of met Mary's mother, but not really, because she's a character, and I love her.
She's amazing. She's Sylvia Miles from Midnight Cowboy, by the way.
Oh, delightful.
If you ever see that movie, she's so good in it. So good. That was like one of her first roles.
Do you think they just sat her down and showed her Golden Girls episodes and was like, listen, this is the mom in this show. If you could act as much like her as possible, that would be fantastic.
Just do your laugh. That's what they really want.
That's right, yes. This is when the dog basically commits suicide.
Well, we're back to Mary's place now, which is on the water and the Hamptons, and she's writing her novel, but now she's not as focused. Like before, she was writing about like the sexy nectar, and now she's writing about like chub rub. And
nectar.
So it's not quite as romantic. We can tell she struggles, right? She's totally struggling.
Yes.
Because the kids are there, and they're playing their music loud, and they're just being, kids in her space. And you're right. Their dog is molesting, I think, her dog. Is that what's happening at first? How does it?
That's what she says. I don't know. They're dogs. They're just.
They're dogging out.
Why am I defending this? Right? Yes. Yes, the dog is molesting her.
Her dog commits suicide, essentially, right? She goes to fetch a stick.
She tells him to get rid of a stick.
Yes.
Throws it over a cliff. And the dog jumps after it while Scruffy, or whatever his name is, doesn't. He just kind of stays still. Fuzzy,
but I'm sorry. The one thing I hate to keep going back, but when Mary is working and writing, she's writing on a word processor that's pink, and it says Zenith on it. So that's like the laptop of 1989, I guess.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I had that same one when we lived in the house on Baldy Street. I had the same one.
Did you?
What? Wait, what?
I did.
Wait, in the late 90s, you had a word processor.
Yeah, I didn't have a computer. I wasn't cool like that. That's very inside baseball. I'm sorry.
I love it.
But anyway, so I just wanted to point that out because I love how Mary was that advanced that she had the pink Zenith.
The pink one.
I love how it cuts basically immediately from the dog's death to a giant memorial for this dog in the middle of just a vast landscape that she has. It's really amazing.
Yes. Do you remember what the gravestone says too?
No, tell
I
us.
don't.
It says, "Tu serais toujours dans mon cœur." You'll always be in my heart, is what that means.
Oh wait, yeah, you know French or some French.
But some French, just enough to get me laid. But that is totally like, I saw that and I was like, that is totally something she would do. Like, Juliet is dead, but it's symbolic. I think it's the end of that Mary when she starts to take control. But not to get too ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're right. You're right. That scene is the first. It's one of the first breakdowns we see of her. So she's slowly losing her. She's becoming more of a raw nerve, and this is layers are being peeled off, and there's one. Then we have on the flip side, Rose/Ruth is starting to work over the other layer, the other piece of the onion that's going to uncover. Whoa, I got deep with that in the onion. We don't have to go.
Yes.
I know. So this is when we do meet Mrs. Fisher, who, when Ruth or Rose talks to Mrs. Fisher about her daughter, I love it. She goes, "My daughter? She's a slut!" Right? How does she...
It's so great.
She's like, "You think you can sneak me a beer?"
Yeah, I love it. And then she goes, "Oh, your daughter, she's so fancy. I bet she has a butler." And that's when she says, I love this line, "Butler, I bet there's a lot of hanky-panky going on there." And she's absolutely right.
I know, and she was.
With
and then what does she say? She's like, she goes, "You should go visit her." And she goes, "I ought to drop in on her one day. That ought to scare the shit out of her."
That's right. She calls it hanky-panky, but scaring the shit out of her. That's right. That's right. And then don't they sort of frame her, but this doesn't come about till later. They frame Ruth and her Hooper, frame Mrs. Fisher to make it look like she's a bedwetter.
Yeah.
I think it's just Ruth. I don't know if her work accomplice is in on this, because Roseanne walks in with bedpans and just dumps a huge pile of piss in this poor woman's bed and then just wanders off. So I don't think that other lady is into what she's into. Like,
she's not as into
I understand that she teams up with her, but I don't think from the get-go they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then back at Mary's...
Oh, hell's breaking loose. It's
Andy's
a hot
watching
mess.
Glow on TV.
Oh, I love that.
Did you notice
Gorgeous
that?
Ladies of Wrestling.
Yes.
Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, yeah. That was one of my Saturday morning pleasures as a kid.
Oh, really?
Glow?
Yes.
Really?
Did you really watch that? I don't know a single
Who was your
person
favorite
that
on
watched
Glow?
Oh, there was Attila the Hun, who I just liked because she was like the Andre the Giant of the Glow world.
She was, yeah.
I honestly don't remember all their... Attila the Hun I remember, and then I just remember their outfits and them being like... Again, they were like the males of the WWE, so I dug it.
Now, there's actually just a side note on that. I'm sorry, Paul.
Please.
But there is a documentary on Glow, and it updates where all of them are now.
Really?
Yeah, if you ever get a chance, I think it's on Netflix. It's about the ladies of Glow, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, and it kind of just shows clips of how it all came about and everything.
Right.
And, they played it on Logo once, but it was a hit on Netflix for a while. So I don't know if it's still on there though. But if you're ever interested,
I'm checking it out tonight. Ever interested?
Yes. There you go. Just a side note.
I like it. That was a good PS. They're sloppy, these kids. He's watching wrestling, and isn't he like eating hot dogs on the couch or something ridiculous? Like,
yes, so Mary's like, in this house, we don't eat in the living room.
Yes. And I love it. Now everybody in Mary's house is going crazy. The maid has like 5 lines in the whole movie, Mary's maid, and they all have to do it shit. She's like, "I cleaned the shit. It's too much shit. I don't do shit." It's shit. Like,
for all the bad stuff that happens to characters in this movie, I feel worst for her maid. Like, her maid seems to be the only person in that house working or doing anything. That poor woman.
No, she refuses to. No, Garcia's not.
Garcia isn't doing it.
He says, "I'm not the maid." He's in his bedroom lounging.
Yes.
Right, yes.
He was, and he said, "Wait, what did he say?" He goes, "I might be the butler, but I'm not the
maid." There's a distinct difference, all right? Just ask Benson. So everyone's turning on her. The maid doesn't want to clean the shit, and Garcia is not a maid, and so she goes to do laundry, and it's kind of funny when she does the laundry. She like pours a ton of bleach in the laundry.
I love her laundry, and her laundry room. Her laundry room looks like shit.
Yeah, compared to the rest of her house, she has like a laundry room that was like in my first apartment. It's like such a shitty laundry room.
That house is amazing. You're exactly right. I was like,
literally puts quarters in the machines to get them to work. She's like, I don't know.
That laundry room looks like they just grabbed like the boom mic operator. And they're like, can we just shoot this scene at your house, man? It's just a laundry room scene. Don't worry. Because it looks terrible. It's this tiny room. I think my laundry room here is larger.
It's bigger,
than
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to say she breaks her nails.
No.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yes.
Go ahead,
she breaks her nail. And this is when she does her, like, the doorbell rings and she does, I don't know, can you do it, Pat, when she freaks out?
She
She
goes,
somebody. Go
Can
ahead.
somebody please get the door? And then it rings again. Somebody get the goddamn door! And of course, who was at the door, Jamie?
It's her mother. Her mother is there.
She's like, fancy
yes.
schmancy.
My favorite part of this is when the mother's like, 34. She told you she's 34. She's 41. And he seems really upset by this.
I know. He's
he seems really upset by this.
The next scene is we already discussed where Ruth and Hooper bond over their eating pastries together. It's a beautiful bonding that happens.
What does Hooper lets her in on the secret that she has a ton of money that she's been saving?
Yes.
Now, I was confused because they are at work, right?
Mm-hmm. I think Hooper lives there, though.
Is she?
She's
Okay. I didn't understand what was happening. I was like, is she storing this money at work? But then I was watching. I'm like, is she just showing her a checkbook? Like, she could just written nonsense in that checkbook and be like, look how much money I have in my balanced checkbook. So I didn't know what she was showing her, but it seemed to be proof that she had a lot of money.
Yes.
Right?
A good amount of savings. Yeah, and they must. I think they both just live there. Like, if you're gonna,
they just live there.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, you're right. Roseanne doesn't have a place to stay. She blew up her house.
Right? Exactly. She has no home. Her children are with the dad.
Okay.
When we really see the mom being sort of class or just fish out of water is when. So next, the People magazine is
People magazine.
They are
product placement for People magazine, I guess.
Yes.
Yes, true. They're interviewing Mary Fisher, and already, is it that her new novel hasn't come out, but they're predicting it to be a bomb? Right?
Well,
Her career's kind of on the fritz.
No, I think they're just interviewing her in anticipation for the new novel, right?
You know who the reporter is, right?
Oh, no, I don't know.
Oh, okay. She was the mom on Strangers with Candy.
Ah!
Oh my
Is
God!
brilliant. Deborah Rush is her name, and she.
I would not have known that.
Oh
I
yeah,
would
she
not
was
have
in
picked
the
that
American
out.
Pie movies too, but she's really known as the mom from Strangers with Candy. She's brilliant, brilliant, so funny. But anyway, go ahead. They're doing this expose on her.
Yes, and they're comparing. They're comparing her novels to softcore porn for Bored Housewives.
Bored Housewives.
And, yes. And they're kind of giving her a hard time, and she steps away. Mary steps away, I think, to tend to the kids. Right? Is it because
Before she steps away, this is my favorite Garcia scene. Is when he drives up in the golf cart, and drops off just a plate of spray cheese, crackers, and like powdered Lipton tea.
Yoo-hoo, cans of Yoo-hoo, yes.
I thought it was Lipton tea. Okay, all right.
He's doing that to fuck with her.
Scene.
And when he pulls up, you can hear, "Come on and get my love. Come on."
Right, yes.
That late 80s club music that was just so great.
Yep.
Of course, the Latin butler's listening to it.
Absolutely.
Oh, you know what it is?
Yeah.
Mary gets called away because the owner of the nursing home says,
Right.
your
Her
mother's
mother's
not
been
welcome here
kicked
anymore.
out.
She's been wetting her bed.
That's right. Okay, that's what she gets. So, yeah, she gets bombarded with that news. So while she's getting haggled kind of at her interview with People magazine and by her butler, she gets this call that her mom is probably going to is kicked out of the home that she's in. And in the meantime, the mom is telling People magazine all the insides to Mary's growing up.
I love
how
that.
her daughter was a teenage tramp, and they had to give up the first baby, right? She has a son.
Yep, that's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
And she goes, there's a missing heir to the Fisher family royal dynasty. And she goes, royal my ass. Her father was a kosher butcher from Hoboken.
That's right.
And by the way, I don't think that kosher butchers exist in Hoboken, but
In
it was still
Hoboken,
funny.
yeah. But it was just the way she put it. Oh, it was brilliant. It was
Oh,
brilliant.
yeah.
Oh, so now that, so we see devastation is happening in Mary Fisher's life, obviously to like the extreme degree, and
Right.
now Ruth can leave her job at the senior living facility because her job is done.
Yes.
right.
Well,
So
she gets fired. She gets fired for
because she-
covering up the incontinence of the patients
So
that she's
weird.
been caring for. But it doesn't matter.
No.
Because she just gets on a bus,
Yeah.
and that's it. She's done there. But her friend, Hooper, chases the bus down, and these two are teaming up.
Yep.
And
Move to the city.
I don't understand. Does she ever... Is there ever a scene... Again, apparently, I'm missing a lot from this movie.
You're missing
mole,
a butt scene. Yeah,
an
a
ass,
mole,
right.
mole and an ass.
Is there a scene where she lets Hooper in on what she's doing, or no?
I don't think
I think
so.
Or is
I think
Hooper
they're just
is Hooper
magnetically
thinking
connected.
everything's totally legit?
I think that Hooper and her just share a connection because they're both
Okay.
sort of. But that's why she opened. So now So now this is very inspiring. So now
It's
her and
very
Hooper
inspiring.
leave together, and now again Hooper has this giant savings, and now we have a beautiful renovation montage.
I love it.
Oh,
I
it's
love it.
so bad, huh?
It's amazing.
And it's in the financial district, which is the neighborhood I live in now. Woo
That's
woo.
where you live, yeah.
Fun! Yay! So they're in overalls, her and Hooper, and there's ladders, and there's painting, and there's coats going on to the room, and finally the room is done. The room is done, and the employment agency can begin. It's Vesta Rose, right?
Vesta Rose. Come bloom with us.
Yes, yes, and I love this. So once now they've set up the business, we see that's they've built it up, truly painted walls themselves. I love it
They
because
have
this is
commercials. How does Bob not see any of these commercials?
Bob's oblivious to commercials,
Roseanne's
but
not
besides-
on the Roseanne's not on the
I
advertisement.
love this too because you were talking about the advertisement in the 80s. There's a scene that happens, and this happens in an 80s movie that we are going to review coming up, and where instead of again, now you have these Facebook ads and you have Instagram, but to advertise your business in the 80s, you could literally just throw papers off of rooftops. And if the people of the city stumbled upon your flyer, they
In
were
Times
like,
Square.
yeah, yes, exactly. They all of a sudden sad, hopeless women got these flyers that let them know that, life can change via Vesta.
Did you notice, though, the Batman billboard in Times Square?
No.
Okay, that was a big deal because the first time I ever saw that, I was like, oh my God, they must have shot that during the summer of '89. Because I remember when Batman came out, that was such a big deal that summer.
Yeah.
Good call. See, that's why we have you, Pat. Because
I was totally just nostalgic for that because I was one of those people that saw Batman that summer and just loved it.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, anyway. That was the first one, so it was the good one.
It was the best one, if you be honest.
I think
Come on.
so, yeah. Michael Keaton.
Number one. I was just going to say, nobody beats a Michael Keaton Batman. I'm just saying.
I agree. Jack Nicholson, yeah.
Oh, but we're not talking about Batman. We're talking about She-Devil. So let's get back on track. So
Very
I
good
was all
point.
there with you. I'm like, yeah, and Jack Nicholson's performance was amazing in that. Okay, but she helps a lot of women in her business, a lot of sad, hopeless, single women or married women or divorced women to kind of refine themselves, refine the career. That's what Vesta Rose is meant to do. It's not necessarily an employment agency for all. It's for sad women, basically, right? This is when we see the start of the goodbye of the mole. This is when the business has started, and she's got 2 things now off of his list, right? Is it 2 or just the 1?
Yeah, it's home and family, and she's working on career.
Yes.
Career and freedom.
And in the meantime, she's working on her mole, and there's just like a Band-Aid on it right now, like a little like wart babe. Well, Meryl then, or Mary, meets with her agent, right? Is it her agent that she has lunch with?
Okay, well, this is my favorite scene. I think before that, I think you were saying that, like, she slips the flyer into, the Vesta Rose flyer into Bob's office so that she can hire his next assistant.
That's right.
And make him cheat or whatever. Okay.
Right. She's set up. She's a set up punch kind of girl.
Yes, exactly. Just to kind of nudge Mary a little bit. But Mary is in disarray. Her house is in disarray. So everything she's experiencing is reflecting on her work. And her next novel is called Love in the Rinse Cycle. So
yes, because she's done laundry for the first time.
Yeah. There's a whole chapter on laundry. And her agent, who that woman was in Tootsie. She was so funny.
Yes.
Hilarious. She was the producer, the soap opera producer in Tootsie. She also played Dorothy's sister in an episode of The Golden Girls. Check it out.
Good call.
But
check it out.
You know, of course I know that. But so Mary shows up to this meeting, and she orders rosé, which is so awesome. And then her agent goes, "Mary, what's that in your hair?" And she goes, "Oh, it's a gummy bear." She takes it out and eats it.
She just eats it, yeah.
Like it's nothing. So this is Mary, like Mary's fall from grace. And, you know, her agent's like, "I'm not happy with this novel. Your heroine, you know, she has 2 kids and a husband named Bob." And she's like, "And what is this chapter on laundry?" And she goes, "It's a metaphor." And her literary agent says, "A what?" She doesn't even know what a metaphor is. Oh, yeah, but now she's trying to be all deep. It's a metaphor for what she's going through, Love in the Rinse Cycle. So, you know, her agent says fans are fickle, disappoint them once, and they'll feel betrayed. And that reminds me of what I do as a TV producer all the time. You don't want to stray from the formula like Mary Fisher.
That's why Fuller House exists.
Yes, exactly. You are so right. But then she's like, "Mary, why don't you take a day to think about it? You look tired." And she's like, "Don't you patronize me." She's like, "And by the way, I think that Bob is a beautiful name." So she's like losing it, right? But on the way out of the restaurant, she sees the newsstand. People magazine has the expose on dethroning the queen of romance.
The teenage tramp herself. Yes.
I love how she just grabs them all and throws them in the trash.
She just grabs every pile she can and she puts them right in the trash.
Yeah, and she's...
But I don't understand because she says...
But it's her mother.
She says that she's going to exercise her right to take this to another publisher. But that doesn't go anywhere because of the book signing. This woman's there. So I guess she buckled, I guess
she did. She took a chance. But I think that as a romance novelist, she strayed from the formula, but then she becomes the intellectual down the line.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
But I just think it's great because she's just so over the top.
Well, it appears that Mary's now addicted to painkillers,
yeah, she's
right?
popping pills. She's popping pills, as every good housewife should. I mean, you gotta cope. Definitely. You gotta cope. So, she becomes desperate, though, right? How does this? So he comes home and he's kind of doing the same. Like, does he do I have to shower? Like. He's kind of sketched.
She shows him the People magazine.
Car troubles again.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, because she's devastated by and he's like, we got to bounce back. We got bad press is good press. It's press, and that's what you do, right? Is that... And then...
Yeah, any press is good press. And I love how he's like, listen, Mary, I read the manuscript. I'm like, why are you reading this? Like, why are you reading her manuscripts? Why do you care? But yeah, they have it out about her book, basically.
Yeah. Yes. Or is this the argument where he pulls her sheets or he pulls her off the bed?
Yes.
Like, she's just...
He drags her across the floor. It's
And he's
great.
like, being an accountant is creative. And she goes, oh, yes, I'm sure it is. And she's like such a bitch then. That's Meryl Streep gold there, because she was just totally made. She could have like chewed on the scenery and been over the top like Joan Crawford, but no, she really took that moment and like made it, funny.
I agree.
Really funny.
I totally agree. Yeah. No, her she was just enough. She was a great balance in this scene of like, that overly dramatic whiner, but enough of she does so beautiful in this movie. She is fun to watch, as is Roseanne, but she is so fun to watch in this movie. And yes, he pulls her across the room in bed sheets. She ends up, he sleeps on the couch basically just because he's over sleeping with her. I love this next scene is when she gives, so Olivia, is it Olivia? Oh no, yeah. This is, when Ruth is walking in the park with Olivia.
In Central Park.
Right?
Yep.
Yes. And Olivia's eating a hot dog because I guess when
because why not?
Shoving a hot dog in her face for most of the scene. And Ruth gives her some very beautiful advice. She tells them, you give them what they want and then they don't want it anymore. Because Olivia, right? Is this when Olivia is looking for advice about her new... what to do about... Right.
Yeah, she's really into Bob, and, she doesn't know how Bob feels about her, so Roseanne's kind of pushing this secretary who she got to work at his office into sort of, I guess,
I love
expressing
you, right?
her feelings.
Yes,
right?
yes. Just say it.
To say
Why
I
not,
love you, yes.
Right?
Yeah, it's not going to scare anybody off.
Right.
Because, no, especially not a married man.
Right.
I mean... But she does, and is immediately fired, which I think is just great. Because how do you not think anything bad can come of that?
Because he accuses her of trying to sleep her way to the
because she
top.
said she loved you.
Yes, he says that's.
Yes,
although we
yes.
do. When did that scene happen? There's a love scene or love making scene that happens.
Oh, where they're
yes,
having
through the office
sex
and
around the office.
Yes, and he Xeroxes her butt and her boobs and.
Yes, who didn't do that in the 80s, right?
I mean, that's what photocopy. That's what the Xerox machine was for, basically, to put your private parts on it.
But his ring shows up in the photocopy.
Yes, evidence.
Right. Yeah.
She is given the advice to say "I love you." When she does, she's promptly fired, and of course. Like every good woman, she's a woman scorned. So she goes back to
his office. She breaks in with
because
Roseanne.
she knows the secret code to all the accounts.
Well, she lets Roseanne know that he's been skimming money from clients
to his
for a long
account
time.
in Switzerland.
This dude is super sleazy.
Well, yeah, he's super sleazeball. He's a cheater. He's a womanizer.
And one of his clients on the 80s computer screen shows up as Jackie Collins.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Exactly. Oh, you didn't?
Nice.
Yes, I noticed something. Jamie
you did see that.
All right, I feel pretty good about that.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I did see that. Yes. Yeah, because they transfer a ton of money so that he will then get caught. That's their idea. But in the meantime, Roseanne finds those photocopies.
I love how random that is. So he's got like a file drawer of like all of his
She
business
just opens
files,
a
and like
cabinet.
somewhere tucked in that, it's just some files of his, of his whore's ass, basically. And
It is really weird that he would be like, you know what? I'm going to save these for later. For whatever reason, I'm going to hold on to these.
The Murray file and the Switzerland bank file. There we go.
Nobody will find them here.
No, true. And I mean, the big thing, and I never really realized this until later, is that it's like, oh, you can see the ring that Mary bought him. Because I always forget about the ring, but that's why I keep bringing it up.
Right.
That's why it's so that's why it's so important. In the Xerox copy, he's grabbing her buttocks, and in the buttocks grab, we see a distinct outline of the ring. So this is your favorite scene, Doug, when they're
When Mary gets the photocopy sent to her by Roseanne, she
thinks it's a fan letter,
and she flips out.
Well, she's in the car,
right? Exactly.
With Bob when she gets it, and they're kind of on a good way, right? Aren't they kind of doing like he's got lipstick all over him for some reason, right? When they're in the car,
I think.
So,
right? Yes.
Yes, I don't know if it's Olivia's or if it's supposed to be Mary's, but they're in the convertible together, and you feel like their relationship is on them. He's like, we should go away together, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what we should do? We should take a vacation. Right. That would be great. And then she sees the copies and freaks out. And this is when her maid quits and she walks in on the daughter sexy dancing with Garcia. The son's drinking champagne, dancing with her mom. It is bonkers.
That's very
nuts.
John Waters, right, Paul? It's like,
that's
what you see there. Because the first thing I thought was that Garcia wasn't just cuddling up to Nicolette. He was
she was like riding her. Yes.
She was straddling him, and he was kind of holding her up.
Her legs were around him.
Yeah,
that was disturbing.
Yes, it was very. You're like, because she's 11.
13, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to be generous.
I love, though, this is another, because this is a start of a Meryl Streep breakdown. They're a lot like Sally Field's breakdowns. They're amazing. So when when the first person to kind of walk out on her is the maid, again, because the maid is just tired of cleaning shit. That's, like I said, every line the maid has
up with
to do
this bullshit I will not
put. Yes.
Isn't that what she says?
That's right. Up with this bullshit I will not put. Yeah, very broken. And I love when Meryl Streep, when Mary is like, no, she like does this. She kind of has a tantrum where she hugs her legs. Like she's like, no, and like hugs her legs.
Like you're on an airplane, like a crash position on an airplane, pretty much. Yeah.
And then Andy, from all the champagne, pukes. Right
well,
there.
as she gets it together, though, Meryl Streep is like doing this like big, like we're gonna get it together here, and she's starting to lay the smack down about
laying
like
down the
you
law.
need to go here and you need to go here, and this is all just I'm over it. And then he pukes up champagne and like, oh my god, like where are we going with this? She's spinning, but somehow she gets it together for a party. The party is for her, right?
Is it the book release party?
It's
I guess?
Love in the Rinse Cycle. Even though it didn't do well, I think there's still promotional things going. Although I didn't see the agent there. She must not have gotten the invite.
Yeah, she wouldn't support it. She didn't support it. But now she's definitely a little more in control and together at first at this party. Like for some reason, the 11-year-old daughter, I guess she's going through withdrawal from not being with Garcia. She's like sucking her thumb on the couch, right?
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
And Mary looks at her and she's like, take that, like just gives her a signal, like to take the thumb out of her mouth. And then Bob makes a beautiful toast. He starts to make a toast. And then the cops come.
The cops break in.
And he's under arrest for fraud and embezzlement. Right there at the party.
Yeah, and that guy who plays the cop is the worst, right? He's like, I'm sorry to spoil your party.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
He was somebody, he was an extra they probably just pulled off the street, but then Mrs. Fisher does her maniacal laugh and says, bye-bye, Bobby. She's a genius in that,
But she kind of supports him as he's in the cop car. She is like, no, you know.
Well, she supports him, and then they go see their lawyer friend,
Larry the lawyer.
We got this. We got this judge. He's great on white collar criminals and all that stuff. Yes, and this is when it is revealed that he's actually been stealing money from Mary, which I think is great.
Yes, and Mary's like on. She's like, wait, what? Wait, hold on, what?
Right.
P.S. How about Meryl Streep's outfit in this scene where she's got the hat on?
Yes,
and
it looks very Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah,
it's very like I was gonna say Jackie Onassis kind of, but like
very of the moment. Dynasty, late seasons of Dynasty.
Now that she's heard all of this, she's over it, right? She's like, he thinks, okay, we got this lawyer, we're okay, and she now knows that he's been taking money from her, and she's like, you're a dick if you think that I'm okay with all of this. I love it. Then they get in the elevator, and there's a Chinese food delivery man in there.
Up against the wall,
Yes, they continue to fight with him standing there, right?
Yep.
I love that. But does she totally? Is that when she just totally fires him and dumps him?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the revolving door.
Oh, when his hand gets stuck in the revolving.
So
Yes,
she's
yeah.
totally lets him go. Right
She
after.
dumps him. She's done. And Roseanne gets wind of this judge and gets her
Asian friend.
to switch judges.
That's right. That's right.
Which I think is wonderful. And I do think it's wonderful that the judge is a woman. Like this movie kind of borders between, like, is it a revenge movie where women are getting revenge on Bob? But no, like, he brought all this upon himself. But I still think it's really fun that it is a female judge that shows up and instantly everybody knows, oh, this isn't going to work out the way that we thought.
This is not Judge Phillips. That's
right.
This is black judge, generic black judge.
This is
Right,
a black
yes.
judge who recently had a stroke of some kind.
Yes.
And the stenographer is also a part of the employment agency. I wonder if the judge is part
She has
also
a
of the
rose
Vesta
pin.
Rose Employment Agency. So they're all a
Wait,
part.
hold on. You think you can go to Roseanne's employment agency and just become a judge?
I don't know.
That's a good point.
I love that idea, actually.
Yeah. Well, you know
Maybe.
what? She got switched because of a Vesteros person. So
Yeah,
maybe-
exactly.
maybe
Exactly.
that's-
So
Okay.
it's
Yes.
all part of the
But
sprinkling.
he is sent up the river for, what, 18
months.
right? And $250,000,
Yes.
right?
Very good, yeah.
250,000.
Good remembering. Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. So he's in prison. He's
Man.
kind of embracing prison
This
life,
is
right?
this is the part in my notes where I wrote, when did Roseanne have her mole removed? Like, literally, at the end of the movie, I was
Well,
like,
because
wait,
she
what
does.
happened?
She comes out looking pretty polished. So he's in jail, and he's working the kitchen in jail, and
Yeah.
I love it. He works with some pretty nice jailmates. Let's be honest, like
Yeah.
the big black
He's
guy he
making
works with in the
lasagna.
kitchen.
Yeah.
Black
He
guy's
makes
nice to him.
he burns a lasagna, and the black guy's kind of like, "It's all right, you goofball. I'll cover for you." While his lasagna is burning, his family is coming to visit. She brings the kids
Kids are
to
coming
see
to
him.
visit,
Those
yep.
rotten kids are there to see him. She looks really good.
She's very
Right, the
nice to
mole's
him,
gone.
considering.
Oh yeah. Oh, she's very nice because she's kind of healed. She's kind of over it. You could
Well,
tell.
she
That's why
got
I'm
it.
saying
She
it's
crossed everything off her list, so.
right.
Right,
Well, she's
right,
powerful.
yes.
It's very empowering. And do you want to talk about our next scene, Pat? Or...
Oh, yes. Do you mind?
yeah.
Okay.
No,
Oh, please
So
do.
it cuts to Mary Fisher doing a sit down with the one and only Sally Jesse Raphael. Yes! So everybody, I don't know if everybody knows, but Sally is my pally. I love her. I moved to New York to work with her, and now I've been doing a lot of projects with her, and she's amazing. So this is a
awesome.
scene where, and this is probably less than a minute of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Mary Fisher is serious now. She's got the big Gloria Steinem glasses, and she is promoting her new book, which is like very serious. It's like a docu-novel, Sally says. And this
Yes.
is back when,
Yes.
I just want to remind everybody, this is when Sally, this is 1989, so Sally had just won her first Daytime Emmy. She won two, but this is her
She's
first
short
one.
hair Sally.
Yes. And Sally was like the shit back then because everybody went to her for an expose. I remember when the irony is that Roseanne went on Sally's show for an
Really?
exclusive when she was talking about her abuse and her past and her past marriage.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
Same
I
thing
didn't
with
know that.
LaToya Jackson. Went there when she exposed the abuse behind the Jackson family. Like everybody went to
Okay.
Sally for an exclusive. Like they didn't run to Oprah or Barbara Walters. Even it was Sally. You know. So so Sally is basically setting it up that Mary's novel Love in the Rinse Cycle was a flop. So now she's got this new book that it's got this long title, but it's basically very serious. And she's got the glasses, and she's pushing them up, and she's like, "Yes, Sally, I, she's very serious."
Yes, yes.
So she said it was a flop, and she also told me. I said, "What was it like with Meryl Streep?" And she said that scene took all day to shoot. They took a full day.
Really?
And they must have shot, I mean, obviously they shot more stuff that was in the movie, but that
Sure.
wasn't in the movie. And I said to her, I said, "Oh my God, but you got to talk to Meryl Streep for that long." And she goes, Yeah, after all day, you even run out of things to talk about with Meryl Streep. Like
with Meryl Streep, yeah. And I'm sure even Meryl's like, well, is that why? Because she does a cool, Meryl does like when she's talking all intellectual, yeah, she talks about the critics being serious. I'm doing it like everybody can see it.
She gives a middle finger.
Yes, she pushes her glasses up with her middle finger like, well, maybe it's, a little more for my critics. So I wonder if that came out of like, fuck y'all, I'm done doing this scene right now. Even though Sally's enjoyable and lovable. No, I'm sure it was probably just part of... No, I loved seeing... I got giddy when I saw Sally.
When you saw Sally, really?
It was so much fun.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I will tell her that, Jamie.
Yeah.
Yes, please do. And use the word giddy. Not excited. I got giddy.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, it's nostalgic because we grew up, with all these people.
Yeah,
like Robin
exactly.
Leach and Sally. And,
exactly.
Yeah, Deborah Rush, So then what happens after that? Oh, yeah, Mary, it cuts to her book signing where she's signing and then Ruth comes up, right?
Yes. Yes,
Right,
and she's
yeah.
really
So
not
she-
paying attention to who she's signing for.
No, but
Exactly.
she looks at Ruth, but doesn't even seem to recognize her, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't even know. It's like you said, Pat, they weren't really on screen together, and I
Yeah.
know that's not what we're going for here, but she probably doesn't remember that she stole this woman's husband or what this woman looked like, but she signs her book for her, and then for no reason, Roseanne's eyes glow red, which is very
I
upsetting.
loved it.
Yeah, there's no other part in the movie where we see...
It's
Like,
very
yeah.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the movie closes with Roseanne walking down New York City streets to an Elvis Presley song.
Quick,
But
I'm
all
sorry.
these women...
Oh, go ahead,
Oh, no,
yes.
please, go ahead.
The guy
Yeah.
after Ruth, this guy comes up
Oh.
and says, "Your grasp of the postmodern
Oh, that's
metaphor." It's
right,
amazing.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Which is full
Yes,
circle.
metaphor.
It's
Right.
like, oh, now
Yes.
she knows what a metaphor is. Okay, anyway. Then it's the Elvis Presley scene.
That's a very fun scene at the end when she's
Very 9 to
like
5.
an angel. Yes.
Yes.
She walks
Oh,
down the
definitely.
street and all these women start to gather that are all obviously part of Vesta Rose's employment agency,
Uh-huh.
empowered by the Rose, and kind of taking over the streets of New York. So it ends on a groovy sort of, feminine vibe. It's
Oh,
it
it
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah,
does.
and it
Yeah.
made you go see Batman that summer, didn't it?
It did. It did.
That's
Yeah.
It's cross promotion.
I
right.
know.
All right. So every time we do this, at the end, we like to share our
If I
final
could throw in
thoughts.
a quick plug.
Please.
Should I do that, Paul?
Plug for you? Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
Of course.
Okay, well, the theme of this whole thing is a woman scorned. Well, I worked on a show called Scorned, Love Kill,
Yes, I know.
for
Ah.
Investigation Discovery. And I worked on it over the summer, and it's premiering April 2nd. So Saturday nights at 10, keep a lookout. My episode's coming up. I'll put it on Facebook.
Yay.
That's wonderful.
Please do. And tag us. Yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
there's a
that's
lot of
awesome.
sex and crime and crazy stuff happening. I did 3 episodes.
That's
so-
what people tune in
Are there any
to TV to
butlers?
watch.
Are there a lot of butlers in there?
No, there aren't butlers, but there's a lot of crazy, like, office sex.
See? It's just like this movie.
It is kind of,
Yeah.
yes.
Is there Xerox machines? Crazy Xerox machines. I love
Jamie,
it.
what did you think of this movie? Having seen it a long time ago and now seen it again.
I enjoyed it. It was one of those movies that before I sat down to watch it, I was like, oh, She-Devil, and what are we going to do with this? But I was pleasantly surprised at what, I mean, I remember liking it. I don't remember the detail. I wasn't the big fan that Pat was, where I remember so many of the details, but I remember enjoying it when I first saw it and liking it. And when I saw it again, I was like, oh, of course I liked it. Of course I did. This is why. Because Roseanne Barr is just fun, and she's got a guest star as a mole, and Meryl Streep is brilliant. And the storyline is just fun. I mean, I don't know why it was bombed so bad when it came out, other than, Doug, why don't you tell us what you thought of it?
I really enjoyed this so much.
You did.
I
Good.
loved it.
Good.
Awesome.
I understand why it bombed, because it's so weird. I mean, it's so weird.
Yeah.
So I could totally understand that. Like, what I really liked about this, and I loved how it ended. Like, it ended on such a bizarrely positive note. Like, there weren't any bad guys at the end of this.
Yeah.
Like, nobody really was destroyed and broken. Like, Ed Begley Jr.'s character could have been such a villain and absolutely broken down at the end. But no, like, it ended on such a weirdly positive note. And I did.
Yeah.
I liked it throughout. Like, it was a lot of fun. I would certainly recommend this movie. Yeah.
That's great.
Well, so what are your recommendations? I mean, mine was, we talked about, Death Becomes Her is one of my all-time favorite
so great.
movies. It's a 90s movie, so it doesn't make our cut.
I know.
For this review.
It's
but
amazing.
Meryl Streep is, I feel like this was like the stepping stone to her Death Become, like you said, to that performance, and she's with Bruce Willis and Goldie Hawn. That I love that movie. So, and it's the similar sort of cheeky, campy, and
tone.
Yes. So that was my recommendation. I don't know, what did you all recommend?
I would say Polyester by John Waters because it is an homage to the harried housewife who gets cheated on and comes back in a big way. And that one ends a little differently, and the kids are a little bit more fucked up in it. But it's my favorite John Waters movie, and I recommend that. And I think that their homes are both very similar in that campy fashion. Even though that film was from 1980, this one is from 89.
Yeah.
But still, I say Polyester by John Waters. If you love She-Devil, definitely see that movie.
Very nice. Mine would be another movie about a man who has his life destroyed. Basically, he did it to himself, but there's a woman involved. Is Election from 1999. I would recommend that. Like,
good one, but Reese
Witherspoon. It's
such a great movie.
Matthew Broderick. I almost called him Matthew McConaughey. That would have been a much different movie then. But so I would recommend that.
He's like,
Election.
And Chris Klein's in
Chris
that.
Klein. Yep. I haven't seen it in a while, but I assume it still holds up and is a pretty good film. So, yeah. So, Jamie, in 2 weeks, we're going to get back to, because, again, anytime we've gone an episode or two without singing and or dancing, I feel like we have to revisit it this year.
We have to regroup. Yeah, we got to regroup. Totally.
So 31 years ago, in 2 weeks, a movie was released
31?
where girls danced, I guess, I've never seen it, with...
Because they just want to have fun.
You guys are not doing that movie.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I am going to listen to this one.
I love
so
that
we got,
movie.
what do we have?
Serica, Jessica, yes. And Helen Hunt, yes.
And
Shannon Doherty as a child?
And a very young Shannon Doherty.
And Jonathan Silverman.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Tokyo.
I cannot wait for this one. I'm going to promo that one to death.
So,
oh my God, I can't wait for that one. I'm so psyched. That was one of my movies.
So psyched, to be honest. Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you again, guys. This was awesome.
Thank you for coming. That's
thank
great.
you.
Yes,
thank
really
you. You're always a pleasure to have, and you always bring just infinite fun and great just movie knowledge. So
infinite gay geekdom.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
You are welcome anytime.
Well,
thank you.
Everybody, we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Good night. Buenas noches.
Young lady, and take off my dress.
You're not my mother.
I said move!
It reminds me of when I was in middle school and I went to our local mall to see Richard Simmons because he was making an appearance.
Yeah, you did.
And it was just amazing. He was right there at Jack Diamond Shoes. In Pottstown, yeah. It was, but anyway.
That's a nice aside. We should have a whole Richard Simmons conversation later, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah?
I worked at the Children's Hospital, and he came, like, we would have, like, random, like, you know, we're at the Children's Hospital. These poor kids, they have cancer and terrible diseases. So these, like, baseball, you know, players and different, you know, celebrities would come visit them, and Richard Simmons came to visit these poor children. And let me tell you, none of them knew who they were because they were all under the age of 12. So none of them even knew.
Well, if you don't know who he is, he's very scary.
Yes, and he just shouted at these children like, "What's your name? What's your name?" Like over and over again.
Oh my God! When you worked in LA?
Yes.
Oh my God! He is. You know, we could do a whole show on him, I'm sure, because the whole thing with him being held hostage recently.
Yes. He is definitely crazy. I got a picture with him. I'll totally text it to you.
Oh, you should. Oh my God, that would be so. You should put it on the Facebook page for Good Times, Great Movies. You should. I mean, I've met him because he was on Sally a bunch of times, and he was very nice, but I don't.
So energetic.
Oh my God, I have to see this photo now. Now the audience will get to see it, Jamie. This is great.
Fair enough.
All right. Sorry. Side note about.
Sorry, that was a PS. We're over it. Okay, we're back on track. Here we go. So,